Yo, 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 what's good? We're live with the very first live stream here on Trey for three. I'm out here with my boy Jordan, man. He's here with me to discuss, as you can see in the description. We're going to be talking about the NFL Week 1 predictions, analysis, breakdown, the whole nine. That's what we're going to be here to do today. Jordan, you want to give yourself a little introduction? Tell a little people about yourself and your football experience.
I got you. So my man's already told you. My name is Jordan. Other people know me as Click. Uh, I guess I've been playing football since high school. Mainly O line. So in the trenches is what I'm known best for. But other than that, I love football. I love competition. Offense is my shtick. So if you want an offense, I'm great, and you want every little detail, looking at everything. So I'm just trying to get used to it, ready for the season, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're here. As you can see, this is your first time seeing me on video. My first two videos that I dropped had a backdrop behind them. No actual footage of myself. That's because my camera just came in today, actually. So we're not even using the camera at the moment. This is actually my webcam that we're using. Next live stream, next video will all be on my new camera. Got myself a Canon G7 Power Shot. Was that a Mark II? So I'm gonna be playing around with that a little bit, and then we're gonna be using that for the most part from here on out for real. But like I said, we're here to talk NFL football, week 1 especially. So we're gonna jump right into it. I guess the best place to start is with the game that already happened. That was the game that happened last night, yesterday, Thursday, September 8th. The NFL season kicked off with the Buffalo Bills going to Los Angeles to play the LA Rams. And they came out of there with what I would call a surprising victory. Not the victory itself, but the score. I really wasn't. For those of you who listened to my video the other day, I predicted that the Bills would win, but more so by like 10 games or so. I wasn't predicting a blowout. And after when the second half started, that's what it became.
Listen, man, preparation is key for everybody's scheme. We all know that the Rams is only going to go to Cooper Cup. No matter what additions they try to bring in for wide receiver, anything like that, Cooper Cup is the Rams' offense.
Yeah, and if that wasn't evident already, it was definitely evident at the last night. I mean, exactly. We're in a group chat together. We're in a fantasy football league group chat, and when I saw Matt Stafford throw like his 17th interception of the night, I'm like, damn, what's happening to him? And the first thing somebody pointed out was it's because he only know how to throw the Cooper Cup. I thought that was hilarious at the time, but then as I was like watching the game from that point forward, I'm like his play style is almost different when he's targeting Cup versus other receivers.
Exactly. He's way more aggressive, not passive, not reading the coverage as much, and he's also taking ridiculous risks.
Yeah,
one of his interceptions was a no-look pass.
Yeah, that also makes you think of. Did you see when he was under pressure and scrambling out of the pocket and did like the little pitch pass, but it was 3 yards behind the receiver he was trying to pitch it to? Like, yeah, that honestly, he looked a lot like Detroit Lions Matt Stafford and not much like 2021 Super Bowl champion with the Los Angeles Rams Matt Stafford.
Can you really blame him? That Buffalo defense pressure was evident.
You can say that again. Yeah, man, I knew the Bills was going to field themselves a good defense again this year, but looking at them last night, talk about a team to beat or a defense to beat. Like they might be the benchmark. Everybody else is basing their success off of the Bills based off last night. Man, that was crazy. 2 sacks from Von Miller. I thought that was big.
He's a sack party for everybody.
Yeah, he's still looking young.
Sacks. Even the backup getting sacked, man.
Definitely a sack party.
I don't know about y'all, man, but if I'm the Rams, I'm investing in the O-line next season or whatever they can do to try to fix that up a little bit more. Because, granted, last year we never really saw Matt Stafford under pressure as compared he was last night. But I mean, either way, still gotta get back, man. Still gotta get back. No, who was a real surprise last night? Darrell Henderson Jr. That guy is a downhill runner.
Yeah. And on the other side of that coin, the surprise would be the fact that he was the starter, meaning that Cam Akers, a guy who a lot of people were drafting as early as like the second round. So I think I might even see him get drafted in the first round in one of my fantasy drafts. But Cam Akers coming off of the ACL injury last season. He did play a bit towards the end of last season, which was a surprise in of itself. Like, not many people expect him to make that comeback last year. He did. And played, rather decently. But apparently there was some type of step back or regression, either with the injury or with his overall skill and talent or something, because Darrell Henderson got the start last night when everybody expected it would be Cam Akers. I don't think Cam Akers got on the field in the first quarter. Like, I don't think he was on the field till the second quarter.
Yeah, maybe not. He only had about, I think, maybe three touches at best.
Yeah,
a couple receptions.
I'm gonna look up and see exactly what his numbers were looking like. But yeah, that was.
If you do a comparison on the two, I'm rolling with Darrell Henderson regardless. Listen,
and why is that?
Because Darrell Henderson. Listen, as far as a running back, we all know that they have shelf lives. We all know that their legs eventually run out. We all know that injuries eventually start to play a key factor in the development of running back.
That's a fact. That's fair.
Darrell Henderson being young and also being as aggressive running the ball is exactly what the Rams need. Every time I see him run, I get flashes of maybe a Todd Gurley season when they were a top rushing attack. But like I said, man, if you want fantasy, look at Darrell Henderson, keep an eye on him, and definitely looking like a feature back.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be one that's interesting to see. I got the stats here pulled up, and it looks like Cam Akers finished last night with 3 attempts for 0 yards.
Sounds about right.
3 attempts for 0 yards from Cam Akers, a guy who a lot of people were drafting late first round all the way to like maybe late third round. He was a guy that was going early in drafts as the feature back, what we thought was going to be the feature back, and the reigning Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams offense. But Darrell Henderson, like we said, stepped into that role and stepped in pretty well last night. So I think that's even more incentive for you Cam Akers owners out there in fantasy to be worried. I think it might already be time to shop. If not shop him around, it might be time just to cut your losses and find that, that backup piece on the waiver wire or something. It's crazy to be talking about that literally one game into week one. Not a week into the first season, but one game into week one.
Yeah, but you can see it in the aggressiveness of Darrell Henderson's runs. Like every time I see him, I get flashes of high school that you wanted contact, you want to lower your shoulder, you want to fight for those extra yards. Darrell Henderson doing that from day one of camp.
That's a fact. That is a fact. The guy does look pretty good. I mean, he's a guy that, and for those of you who may be into the fantasy and whatnot, he had a pretty solid year last year playing that replacement role for Cam Akers when Akers went down, which is the reason why a lot of people were drafting him kind of like as a handcuff to Cam Akers in fantasy this year. I'm actually one of them in our little play around league that we drafted yesterday. We literally, the last draft of our fantasy preseason or whatever you want to call it, was yesterday in our play around league. We're in a couple of different leagues. But in our free league, I drafted. I barely was drafting anyway, but I ended up drafting Darrell Henderson later in the draft, and it was kind of just I literally picked the pick, but only off the strength that I've been hearing a lot of people talk about tempering expectations with Cam Akers. And I'm like, okay. I hadn't really thought about it too much because, like, just given the miraculous comeback last year that he had from injury.
I got a question for you. Okay. I'm gonna wait till we get to the Ravens game to cover it to ask you that. I'm gonna make sure I keep it up here.
Okay. Yeah, don't forget that one. We don't want to forget that one. But yeah, seeing what he did last year is honestly surprised that we're at this point with him this year. So that's gonna be interesting to see, honestly. But now I want to go ahead and move on. Now that we talked about the one game that has already happened, I think it's time that we can go ahead and start talking about the games that are gonna be happening. Sure. So let's go ahead and start with our 1 p.m. slate on Sunday. The first couple games. Let's see here. First one that I see on the list is the New Orleans Saints on the road in Atlanta against the Atlanta Falcons. So that was 1 p.m. on Sunday. What are your thoughts? Who do you like? Why do you like them? Maybe a score prediction if you want to give it, but just, give me your thoughts on Atlanta versus Saints. You guys in the comment section too, feel free to give your thoughts on anything that you may see or hear, man.
So off rips, I like the Falcons and I like the Saints. They're pretty good. I want to say mid-table teams right now, at least until we see them get into their groove. Now, as far as the Falcons go, A lot of new faces across the board. This is the second time that Marcus Mariota is given the keys to an offense. I'm very excited to see how he actually does this time instead of being the Tennessee guy and being the Atlanta Falcon scrambling guy from back in the day.
Yeah, I'm curious to see exactly what version of Marcus Mariota we're going to get, especially since regardless, he's on a ticking clock. I mean, they drafted Spencer Ritter in the 2022 draft, this past draft, and based on what we've seen in preseason, it's not going to be entirely too long before he's their starting quarterback officially. But in the between time, I don't know what to expect from Marcus Mariota this year. I guess if I were to give my honest opinion, we're probably going to see more of the guy that played himself out of the starting job in Tennessee. Especially, and emphasis on that, because for those of you who remember, Ryan Tannehill's the guy now, but Ryan Tannehill's another guy who was on his second team. He was a member of the Miami Dolphins where he got drafted, was their quarterback, and had seemed like a failure, a bust. Revitalized his career in Tennessee because Marcus Mariota gave him the chance to do so with subpar play itself. And now we're seeing Marcus Mariota as a starting quarterback for a limited number of games here in Atlanta. Personally, I think I'm going to go with the Saints in this one.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't think that it'll be too close. Yeah, this is
31-27 Saints.
31-17?
No, I got 31-27.
31-27.
Yeah,
interesting.
You can't, just because Marcus is there, you can't also just forget about the weapons that the Falcons actually still have.
Yeah.
They still got Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, I just want to ask you this. How do you feel about Drake London being in the offense?
I think Drake London is interesting. They obviously needed the wide receiver help with Calvin Ridley being suspended for this entire season for sports betting. They needed the help. Yeah, they have the unicorn at tight end and Kyle Pitts. But if he's your only receiving threat, it's not going to be long before, he becomes a non-factor too, because the entire defense only has to focus on stopping one guy. Your Cordarrelle Patterson point was interesting because I've been seeing a lot of mixed reviews on Cordarrelle Patterson. He was a pleasant surprise last year. I had him in fantasy, benefited exponentially from him being on my squad. But it was, like I said, a surprise. No one was expecting that, given his role as essentially a journeyman, return man. Not even much of an offensive weapon throughout his career. But I mean, talk about rebirths. That guy had a rebirth in Atlanta last year, and now it's going to be interesting to see if he can recapture that lightning in the bottle for a second time, which personally I would love to see, and I'm actually going to lean more towards him doing, especially since the idea that the Falcons have been playing with is that they want to go into the season with a running back by committee. So it won't be just Cordarrelle Patterson carrying the rock.
Zamir White.
Yep, type of guys. It'll be more than just him carrying the rock. So that'll be
Damian Williams is also one of them.
Yeah, the former Chiefs running back, right? Yep, he's he's he is definitely a Falcon now. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see. We'll see how that one goes. But I think long term over the season, I think it'll be a situation where essentially similar to how he came onto the scene last year, because he wasn't the starting back at the beginning of the season. It was literally outperforming, outworking every other guy at the position. And I think we're going to see that again this year, honestly. I'm of the belief that Cordarrelle Patterson is here to stay for a few more years. I mean, like you said earlier, running backs don't have that long of a shelf life, but this is a guy that really before last year didn't even have the season close to this. So we might even be able to arguably say that his career is now just starting.
I wouldn't say that. Let's not that guy return back for the Raiders.
I'm not saying he wasn't. Man. Not just the Raiders. I think he was a return man for the Vikings too for a while. They might have been the team that drafted him.
But that's the thing, though. He revitalized himself from being a special teams guy.
Gotcha.
To a 3-down back.
Yeah, and
3-down back, wide receiver, wide back, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's a great.
He honestly plays a position that's kind of similar to how the 49ers are playing Debo, but just more running back heavy more than wide receiver heavy, but definitely a bit of a hybrid there. And again, I think they're going to need that out of him again this year. Back to your Drake London point. He's the only significant wide receiver on the roster, if I'm not mistaken. I'll take a quick look here at the Falcon squad. But this is we're not talking about a squad that has the weapons that they had literally just 2-3 years ago when Calvin Ridley was their number 2 wide receiver. That was back when Julio Jones was still a guy in Atlanta. But now Julio's gone. Calvin's gone for the entire year. Russell Gage is now a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's who's going to get the ball outside of Kyle Pitts? Who's going to get the targets? Obviously, Drake London, something's coming his way, given just his pedigree and where he was taken in the draft. But it'd be curious to see who a third target is that emerges, because there always has to be at least three consistent guys on your team, as far as, especially in a passing offense. Yeah. You need three guys as a benchmark, three guys that can all consistently deliver. They don't all have to be on the same level of talent, but they all have to, at the very least, consistently deliver. Three guys like that, I think, is the recipe for a successful offense in today's NFL. So it's curious to see who will be that third guy for the Falcons. If they can find a third guy and get at least solid QB play out of Marcus Mariota, this team becomes a little bit better than what I'm currently projecting them to finish on the year. And by the way, I'm projecting them to win around like 5 games or so. Honestly, I'm not expecting a great season out of the Falcons. They're in one of the toughest divisions, which is ironic because just 2 years ago it was one of the weakest divisions in football. But the NFC South is now one of the strongest divisions in football. Tampa, Tom unretired, so the Buccaneers are still a threat. The Saints, they've moved on from Sean Payton and Drew Brees, but Jameis Winston is a gunslinger, has led the league in touchdowns before, even though he's also led it in interceptions. So that's something to watch out for. And then you got Baker Mayfield now as the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, whose defense played really well at the beginning of the year last year. So it's going to be, that's another interesting squad right there, the Carolina Panthers. That could be somebody.
But speaking on the Saints, I mean, I'm more scared of the Saints defense than their offense.
Definitely. I would agree. I think that the Saints defense is probably going to finish as a top 5 unit. I'm comfortable in saying, and probably a top 3 unit if we're being real. Well, no, I won't give a top 3 predictions, but looking at what I imagine to be about the top 5 defenses in the league right now, I'm still going to consider the Rams as one of the top 5 defenses in the league, even though they got embarrassed. But they got embarrassed by one of the top 5 offenses.
As long as Aaron Donald's on that team, they are still top 5.
There it is, the best defensive player in football.
As long as he's on the team,
yeah. So I think that he keeps them as a top 5 defensive unit. I think the Saints will have a top 5 unit. I think the Bucks will have a top 5 unit. I think the Ravens will have a top 5 unit. And that's 4 teams right there. Let me think of a 5th team that'll have a top 5 defense.
You want to throw the Chargers in there?
Ooh, and there it is, the Chargers, who made some good additions in this offseason. You don't even want
to throw the Packers in there?
I kind of am not on the Packers hype train this year as far as their defense. I've been hearing some glowing reviews, but I mean, could they possibly finish top 10? Yeah. But I'm not predicting them to finish as a top 5 defense. And speaking of the Packers, that's also a team that I think is going to struggle offensively.
Yeah, offensively.
But that Romeo Dubes pick that I was telling you about the other day, I don't know if you saw, but Alan Lazard is doubtful for the first game on Sunday.
Oh, so I you doing research I didn't even know about.
You feel me? So that Romeo Dubes pick looking real good week 1. He's only projected to get like 8 points, but I just put him into my starting lineup once I saw the Alan Lazard news. I think that Romeo Dubes just went from a guy that had some hype coming out of preseason and was going to potentially be was definitely going to be a part of the offense. But I think that the fact that Alan Lazard is trying to get back 100% healthy pushes him into the limelight right away. So it's going to be interesting to see how Romeo Dubes responds. And you got Watson that you was talking about.
And speaking on the Packers Vikings game, I believe it is. Yeah. So how do you feel about Kirk Cousins potentially being an MVP dark horse?
You know how my opinions on that are, because I told you already. I picked Kirk Cousins as my backup or starting quarterback in 2 of my 3 fantasy leagues. My reasoning for that is because they have a new offensive coordinator this year, as well as a new head coach, right? I don't think Mike Zimmer is the head coach anymore. I'll take a look at that real quick, but I want to say they got a new head coach as well. But regardless, they have a new offensive scheme. It's far more pass heavy than, according to the players, from what they've said in interviews and stuff like that. It's looking like it's going to be more pass heavy than the offense that we saw from them before, which I think is exciting for a lot of reasons. One, because I mean, Kirk Cousins is a guy that's been flirting around top 10, top 15 in fantasy the last 3 years straight. And I think the only thing that stopped him outside of the occasional mediocre game is the offensive scheme. Honestly, I mean, I'm not saying they were super run heavy, but kind of similar to the Ravens. They don't have the most sophisticated of route trees and passing concepts. They just have two great receivers in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. But again, going into a now pass-heavy offense where we're talking about it's going to be Dalvin Cook catching the passes out of the backfield alongside Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. I think Irv Smith, is that the guy, the tight end's name? Yeah, he's going to be catching passes out of that inline tight end spot. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I expect Dalvin Cook to struggle.
Really? Yep. Struggle for Dalvin Cook. So are we expecting another injury-riddled season that causes struggles, or just straight up he's healthy but not
injury, maybe not injury-ridden, but more or less it's going to be a downturn in his touches. It's going to be more, like you said, more of a pass-heavy team, so they're going to try to throw him passes out the back, which I feel as though it's okay, but we haven't seen when is the last time you've seen a Dalvin Cook highlight that was a pass? All of his highlights have been runs, have been long.
Nah, he catches screens, but again,
But
I will say they're changing the offensive scheme this year. So
I want to see a Dalvin Cook swing pass touchdown. I want to see a Dalvin Cook wheel route. You feel me?
Hey, we might be going back to this video in 4 days after they play on Sunday. And the first touchdown of the Vikings season is a Dalvin Cook receiving touchdown on a swing pass or a wheel route. We'll come right back to this video. I'll be like, Jordan, I told you so. You just need to be patient. New offense is here. You just got to wait for him to put it out on the field. But with that, let's go into the next game. Next game is the Cleveland Browns and the Carolina Panthers. The return of Baker to Cleveland, though the game will be played in Carolina. This is a revenge game or reunion game type of thing. Not the only one that's on the schedule for week 1. There's another one that we'll talk about as the very last game of the week. But yeah, so the first one is which is more of an actual reunion too. But again, we'll talk about that later. But Baker is immediately playing his former team, literally in his first game as a member of another squad. He's going to be playing the last squad he played for, the team that drafted him, the team that thought he was their franchise quarterback and then gave up on him.
I'm expecting
I think that's going to be interesting. 5 sacks.
5 sacks.
5 Baker Mayfield sacks. How many of those do Myles Garrett account for? 4 Myles Garrett sacks on Baker Mayfield.
Depending on if Myles Garrett is going hit up against I don't want to butcher his last name. The rookie tackle from NC State, Icky.
Oh, Icky Ekwonu?
Kwanu, something like that. Yeah, I don't want.
We'll call him Icky.
Yeah, if he going up against Icky, that's going to be a tough day at the office for Icky.
Yeah,
because not only does he have to go against Myles Garrett, they could switch, and then it becomes Jadeveon Clowney.
Sheesh, yeah,
that's a tough debut.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a Carolina Panthers team that's particularly stout in the offensive line. So yeah, I think that's a good point there. I personally want to go with the Panthers mainly because of the storyline. I feel like Baker has the ability. He's just a guy that's too inconsistent. So it's like it's hard to ever truly predict what Baker you're going to get from one Sunday to the next type of thing. Ironically, I say that because there's actually a game on our schedule when the Ravens play the Panthers. It's our first game out of a bye week. Games we usually win, but I predicted us to get upset that week only because it'll be Baker Mayfield playing against a familiar squad, and he'll have one of his rare 4 touchdown days or something like that. It's just a prediction. Not saying that, not saying that, we play each other 10 times, we're losing 9 or something crazy like that.
Man. 2 different receiving corps, man.
Yeah, but I mean, he also has one of the best, if not the best, receiving running back in Christian McCaffrey. So if that's a guy that's still healthy come week 9, week 10, whichever the 2 weeks it is, either week 9 or week 10. I think the bye week is week 9, and then that game is week 10. I want to say. I'll look real quick, but I'm pretty sure that's what the case is there. And I am completely wrong. Well, not completely wrong, but the bye week is week 10, and the Panthers game is week 11.
But the bigger question about the whole Panthers season is not even Baker. It's the status of Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
If he goes out, what happens to the rest of the offense?
Yeah, that's true. And it's ironic. I've been saying ironic a lot. It's interesting, though, that that's a storyline that we've been talking about with Christian McCaffrey for the last 3 seasons now. Because if you remember his first 2 or 3 years in the league, I think he played damn near every game. And then after that, it was like he's played like maybe 5 or 6 games over the last 2 seasons. Like they say the best ability is availability. And Christian McCaffrey has not been too available. So that'll be interesting. If he is available, though, he's an X factor. He's always an X factor. He's a guy that can completely take over, catch the pass out of the backfield. Next thing you know, 3 guys have missed the tackle when he's running up the sideline, So that's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to go ahead and say the Panthers win in a close one. I think it'll get a lot of hype in the coming days on SportsCenter and shit like that.
So you don't think Jacoby Brissett can actually have a good game?
Man, Jacoby Brissett. Don't get me started on Jacoby Brissett. Let's just say that I personally don't have high hopes for Jacoby Brissett this season.
Really?
I'm not saying that,
Really?
I don't think Jacoby Brissett's just some bum. Like, clearly he's good enough that he's been able to bounce around from team to team where other QBs,
a good amount of games.
Yeah, so, it's going to be interesting to see. But I 11 games without Deshaun Watson. Honestly, I think the Browns win 4 of their 11 games without Deshaun.
I can agree. I kind of can see that.
And not all 4 of those games will just be, they won off the back of Jacoby Brissett. It's going to be the defense.
It's going to be defense. It's going to be great play out of Denzel Ward. It's going to be an all-around great time for them. Definitely. But I still have to believe in Jacoby Brissett, man. This is the best wide receiver core he's gotten to ever start for.
Who is the Browns wide receiving core right now? We're talking about Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones?
Still a
threat. And who else?
Donovan Peoples-Jones threat.
Like, who else is on the squad? Like, I don't know if it's that big of the threat that we're imagining it to be.
Still got David.
You're imagining it to be. I didn't say that.
Yeah, it still got David Njoku, who honestly, I feel as though they need to trade him.
Some people have been talking about this might be his year. His year to make the leap
because he's a great vertical threat tight end. As much as the vertical threat tight end has been getting blessed in the past few years, coming from Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, like just those 3 names alone, even Kyle Pitts, you can start throwing those names in. The vertical threat tight end is the premier like type of tight end that most of the NFL is running with nowadays. Like, it's a rarity you get a blocking tight end. The Nick Boyles of the world, which I'm not hating on Nick Boyle. Nick Boyle's a great tight end. Yeah. But as far as that vertical threat,
I've actually heard. I was having a conversation with some Ravens fans in the Twitter Spaces, and we were talking about. I'm of the belief that I don't think that you should give up or trade away a guy like Nick Boyle just because of how effective the blocking is. But a lot of people made the argument that we could live without it or can live with less than that level of blocking, as long as it also comes with a legitimate receiving threat. And I acknowledge that was probably fair. It's just that when you have guys like Nick Boyle and Pat Ricard on the field, for a fact that the defense is going to get dominated on that play.
Getting that downhill run, punched in the mouth.
I don't think that's something that the Ravens should just abandon or give up on. I did say that they could probably go with running it less this year. But I don't think that is something you abandon. I think it's too special, too unique, too much a part of what you are. Your identity.
I don't want the Ravens to ever abandon the rushing game, but at the same time, we have to be able to call the right play in the right situation. You don't want to keep calling a run play on 3rd down. You don't want to keep calling a certain run play on a certain short yardage situation, because eventually everyone has tape. Everyone's going to watch your decision making on this down for this situation and start to key up on it.
Yep, that's a fact.
Not to take away, not to just bounce off the NFL. We can even go to the college ball, man. I'm very still upset at West Virginia for losing to Pitt. I blame Neil Brown. Neil Brown lost us that game.
Was it Neil Brown or was it Greg Roman?
I don't know. But whoever says that you are not running the ball on 4th and 1 when you have a tight end at running back is ridiculous.
I don't even want to get started on that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I don't think in my intro I mentioned my connection to the West Virginia Mountaineers, but just to give a quick little tangent real quick. Went to West Virginia University. This guy here was my roommate there. Before that, we were classmates. Well, not classmates because he's 2 years older than me, but schoolmates. I think is the word. Schoolmates,
teammates too.
Schoolmates and teammates in high school. Played on the same football team. But we both went to West Virginia 2 years after one another and ended up rooming together 2 of our years there. And prior to that, my mother is from the West Virginia area. My dad went to West Virginia University. That's how they met. I went there as well, followed in those footsteps, had a great time there. But I'm a diehard Mountaineers fan. Country roads take me home. That's me. Mountaineer country here. But I don't want to talk about that game.
I'm sorry.
I'll save that for another video because it did live up to the backyard brawl hype. I have to give it that. The first backyard brawl game in 7 years? Just about, and it did not disappoint at all. I think the only thing that would have made it better was a Mountaineer win and singing Country Roads at the end.
Great game.
But, it was up to us. We lost ourselves that game. Pitt didn't beat us. We lost.
Trust me. Pitt did not look good at all.
Yeah.
They looked very – I don't want to say they even look strong. They look average.
Yeah, we just looked worse when it mattered most. That's really all it
just ain't execute the plays.
Yeah.
We got to do what you got to do. Wrap up. Simpleness. Just fundamentals, man. Just fundamentals. But let's get back on. Let's get back on the train. What game you want to do next, brother?
Let's go ahead and jump on over to what's in the good? Okay, San Francisco versus Chicago in Chicago. Okay. This is year 2 for Justin Fields now?
Yes, sir.
So Justin Fields, year 2, going up against another year 2 quarterback who's kind of
the Trey Lance era has begun.
Kind of gone into year 1, really. And for those of you who haven't heard, Jimmy Garoppolo, who was the starting quarterback over Trey Lance up until this point, essentially, was formally retained by the team, but with the expectations that he's going to be their backup quarterback, not their main quarterback. So that'll be interesting to see. But that means that it is the official full-on beginning of the Trey Lance area. I think he did start a couple games last year, but this is going to be the true beginning of the Trey Lance era. So second-year quarterback versus second-year quarterback. Justin Fields has the home field advantage. The 49ers have by far the strongest grouping of any of the groups on either team, and that would be their defense. I don't think the Chicago Bears offense stands a chance.
No. I expect to ask what.
I do too. And I don't think Trey Lance will have a crazy debut or so, but all in all, the team will play crazy. The defense, I'll say the defense has 2 or 3 turnovers, at least 1 defensive touchdown type of thing.
Me, man. I personally feel as though Trey Lance is going to explode against the Bears because this is a great debut game. The Bears finished dead last in pass defense last year with Eddie Jackson.
That's a fact.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard in my life.
But I mean, that's a defense that's been slowly depleting for the last 4 years now. You are correct. Really, since they first signed Khalil Mack, they've been slowly depleting as a defense. Now they're a shell of the defense that took them to the playoffs back in 2018? Yeah.
But like I said, I expect Trey Lance to explode. He's going to have a field day. Maybe not a career day, but a field day. My man is throwing to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. That alone that's 42 points right there.
That's a fact. Yeah,
that's 42 points right there. Not even to mention George Kittle.
George Kittle, a guy that's definitely a top 10, but most people would consider to be a top 5 tight end in the game right now. Some people, especially 49ers fans, love calling him the best blocking tight end in football. I'm sure Nick Boyle would like to say a little bit about that. But
I always felt as though blocking always came down to effort and how much you really want to put into it. Like anybody can go out there and block, but if you're really focused, you're actually blocking correctly. You're getting right angles. You're sealing off. It's so much into it when you're actually focused on it, which is why I still kind of say that Nick Boyle is still that best blocking tight end in football. But at the end of the day, the game's evolving. Positions are evolving every season.
Yep. And I was just having a conversation with somebody about the evolution of positions and how we're essentially getting to a point, if we aren't already, where we're playing positionless football, especially on defense. Not really as much on offense just yet, though you are seeing a lot of guys who are becoming more and more of the Patrick McCarry tree who can play well at every single position on the offensive line. But for the most part, it's mainly a defensive thing right now. You got guys who can, like safeties who are like a hybrid between a true safety and a linebacker, or between a safety and a cornerback. You have corners who could essentially play safety. You have linebackers who can move back to safety. It's a lot. You have edge rushers that can play in the inside, or that can move. It's a lot of increasingly positionless football.
The skill of versatility has exponentially increased. I want to say over like the last decade. I definitely agree. You got to be able to do a little bit more, just to not even keep yourself on the field, but to help your team get that dub and produce. But let's talk about San Francisco, Chicago. Yeah, like I said, Trey Lance, field day.
That'll be interesting. Like you said, it's the Bears defense that was 32nd in the pass D last year. So that'll be interesting. But my prediction as well is not a field day for Justin Fields, one for the 49ers in Chicago. I think the 49ers come out of that win.
I don't even think, honestly, even looking at the Bears offense, like what is the real shocker on that one? Because I'm about to say their wide receiver core is Darrell Mooney and
Darrell Mooney.
Yeah, because Darrell Mooney is under 6 feet and he's their wide receiver 1. That's a problem.
That's a huge problem. That's a fair assessment as well.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah. So I definitely think that, like I said, this is a team that is gonna struggle, unfortunately, especially as we start off the NFL season. Yeah. But let's move right on along to the next game on the schedule, which is actually one in the AFC North, another 1 p.m. game. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be playing the Super Bowl runner-ups, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals.
The young guns are back in town, man.
Yeah, so what do you think about this game? This is a matchup that we assume since it's week 1, Mitch Trubisky will be the quarterback, since he was announced the starter of the Steelers. And he's going up against Joe Burrow. I think the Steelers are an interesting case, especially their offense. It's an offense that has not really hasn't gotten better in this offseason. I think what they did do was get themselves another wide receiver in George Pickens, which is a pickup that I loved, honestly. But outside of the George Pickens signing, I can't think of a notable move that they made offensively outside of letting Juju Smith go. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see with George Pickens replacing Juju Smith, with Deontay Johnson is now the undisputed number 1 wide receiver, and Chase Claypool is your number 2 guy, which I imagine means that Pickens will likely be playing out of the slot. But
I don't want him playing out the slot.
You would rather him on the perimeter and put Deontay in the slot?
Yes.
That's what I thought as soon as I said it, honestly. But that'll be interesting to see. But it's the wide receiver core is their strongest position on offense, but what may be their weakest position.
Don't think that running back room is nice?
I mean, Najee Harris is a guy who could potentially become establish himself as a superstar this year. But I also think that because of the situation and the scenario that he's in right now in Pittsburgh, it also could be a situation where he just gets a whole bunch of touches.
He's gonna be a workhorse.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely gonna be a workhorse, but I'm talking about as far as the high volume not transferring over to high production. Remember last year, the guy averaged like 3 yards per carry on the ground, and then this offensive line didn't get better. So it's gonna be curious to see. I think all in all, the offense is worse than they were last year, even though they had an aging QB in Ben Roethlisberger. At least he was Ben Roethlisberger, the forever quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He still had such familiarity and rapport with that offense that there definitely could have been worse alternatives than Ben Roethlisberger under center.
So, real question I got for you now: How long before Kenny Pickett becomes the starting QB1?
I don't know if I can give you an exact date, but in my regular season prediction for the Ravens that I dropped yesterday, I predicted that the Ravens was it their first matchup against the Steelers? Let me take a look here. Either their first matchup or I think it's their second. I think it's week 14. I think I predicted the first matchup against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, week 14. the Ravens will be playing Kenny Pickett. I think by week 14, Kenny Pickett is the quarterback.
That's a pretty
now,
solid
will
thing.
he be the quarterback before then? Possibly.
I got it by week 8.
But by week 8?
By week 8.
Interesting. But yeah, I definitely think that by the first time the Ravens play the Steelers this year, it won't be against Mitch Trubisky. It'll be against Kenny Pickett.
Mitch Trubisky, this is his last straw. He's on his Josh Rosen contract. Okay, if he doesn't produce here, he is in the wind. Whenever someone gets hurt, that is the only time he'll get a phone call. And I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, honestly, I mean,
not mad at
that. That's pretty accurate. But we'll see how it goes. Honestly, I'm not expecting big things out of Mitch Trubisky. Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy very soon in Pittsburgh. Kenny Two Gloves, as Sam calls it.
But I'm excited. I don't know, man. I'm excited to see how the Bengals actually play this year, man. Because coming off that Super Bowl loss, it's going to have that huge chip on your shoulder. And then you got guys like Joe Burrow, you got guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, so many aggressive, confident guys. They're going to want to play hard all year to get back to where they were and get them in that ring. Now, do I see them, kind of usurping the Ravens, beating the Ravens in the playoffs? It's going to be a tight game. But as far as regular season, Bengals should be top 2 in the division.
Yeah, I think that's almost unanimous across here.
Top 2 division.
Unless, like you said, Jacoby Brissett puts up some type of MVP season to do more than just keep the Browns afloat during the 11 games while waiting for Deshaun Watson. And then when Deshaun Watson comes back, although it's only for 6 games, 17-game season. Even though it's only going to be 6 games, or 7 games. Now think about it, because if he's suspended for 11 weeks, one of them 11 weeks is likely their bye week, so he's only missing 10 games. Which means
their bye week is on week 9.
Week 9, yeah. So that would mean that one of the 11 weeks is a bye week, so he's only missing 10 games and will come back to play 7 when he returns. Gotcha. 7 isn't a bad number, honestly, for a guy that's as far as an incomplete season.
It all depends on how fast he gels back into the team. I mean,
there it is. What did I say yesterday? For those of y'all who listened to me yesterday, what did I say in that video? I said that, and my prediction for the Browns' second matchup against the Ravens I called it a toss-up, and that it would depend on exactly how fast and how well Deshaun Watson can get reacclimated. He has to
gel into that team because he has to get everything working with all the receivers. He has to get Amari Cooper motivated to be a baller again.
That's facts. Yeah, because this is Amari Cooper that is starting to look like he might be on a downturn in his career. Not saying that he's at his peak. He could definitely continue to produce at a high level, just based off what we've seen from him the last year. So he might be on a downturn.
It's a downturn off that plateau. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you know what? I brought this over here to show off, just because I like to show off.
Oh, not the shorts, man.
Sit right there, in between me and reach. For those of you who recognize it, that's my Bleed Long Claw. But yeah, flexing in the background. Also got my boy jersey here. This is gonna be hung up once I get the setup fully complete. But I got my boy jersey here. Formerly Deontay Harris. My boy Deontay Hardy. So this is now a throwback jersey. Tay, I need me a new one. Meant to ask you when I was down there last week. But yeah, I need me one to say Hardy on the back now, so that this one can sell high on eBay. It's like, no, I'm never selling this. But definitely need me a Hardy one now, because now this kind of feel like a bootleg. Like I just made this or something. Like that man last name ain't Harris. But yeah, sorry for that quick tangent there. Just wanted to throw Long Claw in the picture.
We get to the next game.
All right, let's jump to the next game. I think the next game on the schedule is going to be the Eagles and the Lions. The Lions who've been featured on this preseason's Hard Knocks. They're going to be playing their first game of the season at home against Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and the Philadelphia Eagles. And not just A.J. Brown. The Eagles had themselves a little bit of an impressive draft, if I remember correctly as well. They drafted Jordan Davis in the first round. Damn, they had 2 first-round picks. Who's their other first-round pick? They have another guy on the team that was a great pickup. Where did Derek Stingley end up?
Texans.
That's right. I'll pull it up here in a second. But yeah, the Eagles had themselves a pretty good draft. So it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what their potential truly is this year. I mean, because now it looks like they're battling the Cowboys for the division lead,
basically.
What do you expect to see in this one?
I expect the Eagles to really, I don't want to say dominate, but I expect them to try to figure out what works best for them because you have to deviate their ball up because it's not just AJ Brown now. Mm-hmm. Now it's still Dallas Goedert. It's still Devontae Smith.
Yep, that's who. Devontae Smith is a sleeper for me.
Still got the backs that can still play a huge role in the passing game, like Boston Scott, Miles Sanders. So it's just all about how is Jalen Hurts going to be able to divvy the ball up enough for the passing game. But as far as the rushing game, like they're going to be running yet again. I think last season they finished second in rushing attempts.
I think they did. Yeah, I think they finished even higher than the Ravens last year.
Yeah, so
that was impartially due to the fact that Lamar got hurt and everything that happened with that. But yeah, here we go. The Eagles' first pick was Jordan Davis, and their second pick was they didn't have a second pick. Could have sworn the Eagles they must have traded it. It looks like the Jets had 3 first-round picks, though. That's impressive. I thought they only had 2. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. I'm curious to see how Garrett Wilson plays. We'll talk about that when we get to the Ravens-Jets game, though. And then Jermaine Johnson, the edge from Florida State. But Eagles, I could have sworn they had more than one guy in the first round. That's interesting.
We'll see how they play. I'm very interested to see how the Lions play this year. Dan Campbell has them boys ready to go to war.
Yeah, he does that. Talk about a guy that can inspire the troops, boy.
Ready to go.
Watching Hard Knocks, I'll be ready to run through a fucking wall for Dan Campbell, boy. I ain't from Detroit. I don't like the Lions. I'm, barely even know Dan Campbell outside of a few things here and there. But hey, yeah, that man had me ready to run through a wall, boy.
But
Speaking of, I gotta watch the newest episode.
But I'm also excited to see how the hometown kid Aiden Hutchinson actually comes into his own with the Lions because he can actually become a centerpiece to that defense that they really need. Another guy that I'm really excited to see back is the Lions. I believe he was their first round pick 2 years ago, or was it last year? Jeff Okudah?
Yes, Jeff Okudah was 2 years ago.
Yes, Jeff Okudah is back.
Forgot about Jeff Okudah.
Exactly. He only played one game,
and just missed the entire season.
Season, but he is back.
That's a good.
He's also being combo corner with their new guy. It's all these African football is making a resurgence in the world, man.
It is, especially and the ironic thing is when you hear about a lot of African guys that are playing in the league, especially the guys that ended up getting drafted like in the first 3 rounds. One thing that I've noticed, weirdly enough, a lot of those guys have little to no football experience before making the league. Like a lot of those guys just started playing junior, senior year of high school type of thing, and now you're being drafted in the first round of the NFL draft literally 3-4 years later.
Exactly.
That's insane to me. Like I can't fathom as a guy that was playing football since 5 years old and did not make the league. It is insane to me that there's people out there, like you said, genetics, God-given ability that are able to pick up a football for the first time at the age of 17 and by the age of 21 be a multimillionaire.
I don't know. Those type of players, they seem to be more defensive-minded.
Usually,
players.
yeah.
So that's why I think that's how they can make that jump a little bit easier.
But honestly, I have to say that I feel like it's harder to become accustomed to being a defensive player than it is being an offensive player, especially if you're a skill position. Like if you're on offense as a skill position, for the most part, you just gotta learn the fucking playbook. Like I don't know how detailed the playbook may be from one team to the next, but you really just gotta learn the playbook. You go out there, and then sometimes when you're a guy, who just got crazy talent, not saying that this guy is one of the ones who's like that, but if you're like a Tavon Austin type guy, you take it over in college type of shit,
or a Deontay Hardy.
If you're a guy like that, you really, if I'm a coach, at least I'm not drawing up. I'm not asking you to learn my whole playbook, brother. You the playbook. It's you. You feel me? You are him. You are it. Like so, I'm telling you, go out there, do your thing. Yeah, at most I might tell you, start on the left or start on the right. You feel me? But you're gonna go out there and do what it is you do. Like it's some guys that's just like that, and I think that's what makes it a bit easier to come into the game as a talent on offense than on defense. Because defense, you gotta be so cerebral. Especially, I think the hardest position on defense is probably DB, given the rules that you have to combat against guarding receivers and shit like that.
Without a doubt.
It's not easy being a DB in today's NFL.
But look at Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about.
That man gave up 5 receptions.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is that I've seen way worse than Jalen Ramsey give up way more than 5 receptions before.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. It's all about effort.
And not only that, I don't even know if it's always about. I think sometimes, I don't think you can expect to be perfect, and cornerbacks and receivers kind of have that personality, that swagger to them, where they act like they're perfect or infallible. But at the end of the day, it's impossible to never have a bad game.
Exactly.
Just like last year, I didn't think the sky was falling when Marlon Humphrey got roasted by Jamar Chase, even though Jamar Chase was a rookie. I'm like, I didn't think it was the end of the world because I've seen Marlo at his best. I know who All-Pro Marlo is. And I think that, he's going to remind a few people this year. But
as long as he ain't getting beat by 9 routes, I don't care. As long as he ain't getting beat on a go route, I don't care.
It's not like just
listen.
He gave him a little move
film.
at least,
Watch that film.
It's not like he
saw the film. You saw Rashad Bateman give him the mittens on a go route. You saw Jamar Chase give him the mittens on a go route.
That's fair.
Like I get it. All-Pro Marlo is that guy, but as far as that go route, it's a problem.
Hey, we'll see.
Still a problem. He got to work on that, man.
I think he's a guy. I want to say his mother was a track star back in the day.
Whole family's whole track family.
So I'm sure that has been pretty embarrassing for him, to get burnt like that. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump on to the next team on the list. I think we're gonna go with the Colts versus the Texans in Houston. Another 1 p.m. game. Colts are an interesting team this year. I actually saw a group of analysts that all picked the Colts to win the division. The AFC South. Yes, AFC South.
Oh, yeah.
It's the Colts, Texans,
Jags,
and who is the 4th team? Colts. Titans. Yeah. The Titans have a shot to win the division, but I think we saw a regression from them last year. And I think that we saw the Derrick Henry injury, and people have been talking for a long time about when will he hit that wall, because he's already surpassed the one expectation, which was, I think the stat was something crazy. Like there's never been a running back to carry the ball for 300 yards and then ever rush for 1,000 yards again or something crazy like that. It's a crazy stat. Once you hit 300 touches in the season, that's essentially the beginning of the end of your career. That's what the stat showed. But he kind of juked that stat because the year after that, he had another monster season. But then last year, which was itself another monster season in the making, I think he was 200 or 300 rushing yards above just Jonathan Taylor, who was the next closest guy when he first got hurt. And I think it took another 2 weeks before Jonathan Taylor overtook him as the leading rusher. So 4 or 5 games in the season, whatever the hell it was, he's the leading rusher by 300 yards. And then you're telling me that it takes the next closest guy half a month or nearly a month to surpass him, even though he hasn't been playing. So he was definitely on pace for that again. But at the end of the day, we know about the shelf life of running backs. Eventually, it has to end. So it's just a question of when will it,
and who are they going to?
Right, yeah. And
no, it ain't Jeremy McNichols.
That's true. They have is Deontay Foreman still on team? Or Dante?
No, he actually was picked up by the Panthers.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that one goes this year. To predict that one in particular, I am going to go with the Colts over the Tech. I lied. The Texans will win. I like the Texans in a surprising week 1 win. I think Davis Mills picks up exactly where he left off last year. He was a pleasant surprise last year. I think that he'll build on that. I think that the fact that he was so overlooked and continues to be overlooked, even though he had one of the best rookie seasons last year, will fuel him to play even better this year. I think they go out there and smack the Colts in the mouth week 1. The Colts are a good team, I think. I think they're a team that could only potentially make the playoffs. And the only way they make the playoffs is if they win their division. They're not getting in as a wild card. There's too many good second and third best teams in other divisions. Like when you consider the Bengals, Ravens, Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs all in one division, only one of those teams can be the division leader. The other one is going to be the wild card. I think it's 2 wild cards or 3 wild cards? It's 3 wild cards now, right? In the playoffs? Because they used to be a bye week for the number 1 and number 2 seed, and now only the number 1 seed gets a bye week. So the number 2 seed plays. I think either last year or the year before was the first year that was implemented. Okay. But so the number 2 seed plays opening weekend in the playoffs now. So I think that means that 2 would play, because I think 4 plays 5, so 3 would have to play 6, so 2 would play 7. So 7 teams make the playoffs. That sounds right. 4 division leaders and 3 and 3 wild card teams. That adds up. All right. So like I said, only 1 team wins. But with 3 wild card, I could very well see the 3 wild card teams coming out of 2 divisions, the West and the North. It'll be for a team like the Colts, they have to
I got the Colts
keep it up.
Dominating. Got the Colts dominating.
Really dominating. Okay.
It's too like.
Why so? Yeah.
I mean, even if we go back on it, like the Texans, as far as defensively, they haven't really shown up at all. Even with Derek Stingley, like I don't really think that they'll become like a solid defensive core. I think they'll still be reeling, trying to figure out what works best for them, still trying to bring in the right pieces. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like if you look at that Colts defense is stacked. Still have Shaquille Leonard.
Definitely.
Still have DeForest Buckner. Not even to mention, don't they still have Kenny Moore in the corner? Like their defense is solid. That's why I said I don't really see the Texans, regardless of how Davis Mills. And I'm a believer in Davis Mills. I'm a supporter. I also want to see how Dameon Pierce actually attacks the league this year.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
I want to see how he does it.
This started the game.
It's been a while since we've had a franchise literally say we're starting a rookie day 1.
Yeah.
The only time that usually happens is if the guy is a top 10 guy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fact. Yeah.
And Dameon Pierce was selected in what round? The 2nd round, 3rd round?
It's that, yeah.
Late round guy. Mm-hmm. So want to see how he attacks this. I tend to throw a little bit of support for the little guy. I also was a huge supporter of Tyson Williams, still in. Hope you do what you gotta do.
Bounce back, yeah. We would love to see a bounce back from you, Tyson.
What you gotta do, man. But when come back, like I said, Colts dominating. I see that defense. Not even to mention that they have Stephon Gilmore.
That is true. They do.
So I see the Colts dominating.
Okay.
Colts dominating.
We'll
Texas
see.
might get. I want to say 35-17.
35-17.
Yeah, 35-17.
35 points for the Colts, I feel like, is one of their higher outputs from, like just in general.
This is also the debut of Matty Ice.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to bring up. I actually am predicting that not a career year for Matt Ryan, but a resurgent year. Yeah. His stats will be better than they were the last 2 years in Atlanta. That's my prediction. Yeah. I think he has – now, mind you, his receiving core isn't that much better, if at all better, than the one he had in Atlanta. He has Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is still free agent.
They have Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell.
Yep, Paris Campbell is an interesting guy. He'll be one to watch out for. Of course, Michael Pittman stepping very fully into that number 1 receiver role this year because he kind of shared it with T.Y. last year. But stepping very fully into that role this year. Yeah. He's a guy that I have on 2 of my fantasy leagues in Michael Pittman. So that'll be interesting. But I think that Matt Ryan prospers not just from the change of scenery, but from I think that the Colts are kind of a step up all around, coaching staff, roster, organization.
It's a foundation.
Type of thing. Foundation. Yeah, I think that they're just a step up from the Atlanta Falcons. And I think that will translate into Matt Ryan having a great year this year. And that's why I predicted the Colts will win their division and make the playoffs as a division winner.
Yeah.
But if they don't win the division, I don't see them winning at all. Let's go into the next one. That would be the always a trap game. The New England Patriots. Though not much of a trap this year because I suppose the Patriots aren't the favorite this time around. But the New England Patriots are starting their season on the road against Tua Tagovailoa, the Cheetah, and the Miami Dolphins.
And Mike McDaniel's head coaching debut.
Oh yeah, the Mike McDaniel's.
The Mike McDaniel era is coming. He said something that was very interesting to me. He said that he was actually not going to go to a more pass-heavy offense. He actually wanted to make sure he ran the ball at least 30 times.
That's interesting. I especially think that's interesting considering the running backs the Dolphins have this year. You remember Myles Gaskin, who's a guy that's been kind of flirting with stardom over the past 2 seasons. I think he dealt with some injuries. But then they also went out and got Raheem Mostert, and they also went out and got Chase Edmonds from the Arizona Cardinals. Edmonds and Mostert figure to be their top 2 backs, with Gaskin probably playing like a utility role type of thing. But that still remains to be seen. That could change. But I think with 3 guys, none of the 3 are superstars, but all of the 3, in my opinion, are solid backs. Yes. And I think to not have just 1 but 3 solid backs, you got to use them. I think you're a fool to use them.
Still got the solid backs. Yeah. You still have Mike Gesicki.
Yeah,
Mike Gesicki has been the most underrated gem in the league for honestly years. He's so up and down that he himself is the only thing stopping him from becoming a superstar.
That's fair. Well, I'll have to put some of that on Tua because Tua has to get the man the ball.
True. But the man also has to get open and catch the ball.
Yeah. Well, technically, you do not have to get open to get the pass thrown to you.
That is true too. But if you're not trying to get a pick,
seen more than our fair share of forced passes and passes that had no business leaving the quarterback's hand going in that direction. With that being said, I think that the Dolphins will win this game. I think that it will add to the hype that they've acquired over the preseason. I think that the Patriots are trying to find themselves. They technically don't have an offensive coordinator or the guys who are essentially playing the role this year. One is Matt Patricia, former head coach of the Lions. But before that, he was the defensive coordinator of the same team, the Patriots. So he's now the offensive coordinator. But he did say in an interview before or after the last preseason game that him calling the plays in preseason was a preseason thing, and that it would remain to be seen how they would do it come regular season. That's concerning to me. Because the fact that you ever gave him the job in the first place is a red flag. But then to say, yeah, well, we might do that in a regular season. We might do something else. The other guy that that could potentially have a hand in this offense is Joe Judge, former head coach of the New York Giants for only a season, I think. He's a special teams guy like our coach John Harbaugh. So a special teams guy, former defensive coordinator. Kind of hard to connect the dots from those 2 points to a winning and successful offense on the field in 2022.
All I can say is never count out Bill Belichick.
Yeah, you can never ever count out the best coach ever. He's the best coach to ever grace the NFL sideline. But at the end of the day, the coach can get you pretty far. But when the other team is more talented than you and also has competent coaching, then it becomes a bit interesting. Now, I'm not calling McDaniel a competent coach because I've yet to truly see exactly how he'll do. I personally am a Brian Flores fan, and I'm very upset that he was fired. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. I mean, my prediction is a Miami Dolphins win. Of course, Tyreek Hill scores at least 1 touchdown, but I'll say he'll score 2. Only 1 will be a deep bomb, though. The other one will probably be something within 20 yards.
I mean, I don't know, man. I'm still trying to see what their offense can actually be.
Yeah.
I honestly want to believe that this has been the first upgrade for the Patriots receiving core they've had since, I want to say, maybe the loss of Julian Edelman. That's the last time they actually had a good receiving core.
And are you saying that this is a receiving core that's like on par?
It's not. I won't even say on par. It's an improvement from last season of Cam leading them out when their best receiver was Jacoby Myers.
Yep.
Now your best receiver, granted, Devontae Parker has not looked so like dynamic as he did in Miami.
Another return game, by the way. Devontae Parker returning to Miami. Oh.
But he hasn't looked so dynamic. But at the same time, he can still get that consistent numbers that he had in Miami down in New England. He definitely can do that. Mac Jones is on a tear.
In New England.
Yeah, in New England. Mac Jones is on a tear. He's coming. Sophomore season, Mac Jones is going to be a beast. He's going to definitely still be running the two tight end system with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. That enough is yards.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I like the two-headed beast, the Hunter Henry, and Jonnu Smith. So that'll be interesting to see. But I don't think that they're ready to put it all together week one. No. Now I don't think that the Dolphins are they're a threat to make the playoffs. They could potentially make the playoffs, but the AFC is deep as hell, and I don't like their odds in general. But I will say that they're a squad that definitely has an X factor. Well, I'll say two X factors. I think Tua is an X factor at QB because this is kind of the year for him to make a break. Either turn into a Josh Allen type or turn into a Josh Rosen type. Also, I think that Cheetah is a X factor, not necessarily because of what he'll produce, but the amount of attention that he'll command and how that'll help a guy like Jalen Waddle produce.
Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, getting open. So, like you said, I agree with you. I just got to see him, man. The AFC East is going to be a nice little game this season, man. It's going to be a nice little show.
It's crazy to say that Devontae Parker is far and away the Patriots' best wide receiver.
Yes.
But the thing is, the next two closest guys are probably Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on
I
that
note. I got Miami still winning. It's going to be close, but I got them winning.
Yeah, I think they'll win. Miami has, even though Brady's no longer on the team, Bill Belichick is still coaching it, and Miami has almost consistently been the kryptonite of the Patriots, especially when they have to play in Miami.
So it might come down to one play.
Right, and then with this year, with the Dolphins being the better squad, in my opinion, I got to give a win to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
On to the next one, we'll go. We'll save that one for third to last, because we'll go in order. I'll be fair. No, I'm lying. I'll be 100% fair. We'll get right into it. The second to last 1 p.m. game on the slate is going to be the Baltimore Ravens traveling to not the Meadowlands, East Rutherford. To the Meadowlands, those are the days. They'll be traveling to East Rutherford to play the New York/New Jersey Jets on 9/11. So that's going to be a big game. Every game played on Sunday will be, momentous and a bit emotional because it's 9/11, but no game will be bigger than, I think, the only one to be played in New York on Sunday, which is, well, not in New York proper, but against a New York team in their home stadium will be it'll be the Ravens playing the Jets 9/11.
And this goes back to the question I wanted to ask you too.
There it is. He remembered it, y'all.
So in terms, not even in terms of fantasy, but whose season is more impact? Who have a better season fresh off a significant knee injury, Cam Akers or J.K. Dobbins?
Well, I think that given Cam Akers' performance last night and the fact that we're expecting from the Ravens' own mouth, we're expecting J.K. Dobbins to resume his role as the lead back, I think that it will be him who has the better season. And then I've been saying for the past few days that nobody has really bounced back well from an ACL injury as a running back since Adrian Peterson did it that year. And I feel like we're about overdue for another player. I mean, if I'm being fair, that was over 10 years ago now. Well, I'm probably not 10 years ago, but what was that? That might have been 10 years ago now when he came back from that injury.
I mean, you kind of can say Cam Akers is that guy because he came back ACL to the Super Bowl and got a ring.
Yeah, but they didn't get a ring because of Cam Akers. Like, Adrian Peterson came back and put the whole fucking Vikings team on his back. Like, he was going crazy. Like, it was like, yo, did he ever get hurt? What doctor did this man go to? Did they give him a bionic knee or something? Like, he is playing like a rookie again or something. It was crazy watching AP that year. So I'm optimistic that we'll see something similar to that from JK this year. I don't think the numbers will be too close, mainly because the Ravens run more of a committee. It's not a true committee, but it is more of a committee because we're a run-heavy team. You can't give it to just one back the whole game. It's not how it works. But I think that JK ends up producing to a point where you can consider it to be a successful year. He's going to top 1,000 yards rushing, and have at least 7 touchdowns. At least 7 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. That's a solid season from a guy coming back from an ACL. I don't know if it'll be enough for him to win Comeback Player of the Year. He could. It might be enough. He might do more than that, and it's enough. But 800. I don't. And the reason I don't is because I don't think Mike Davis will be on the team long. I genuinely think Mike Davis is only on the team until Gus is reactivated. Because he doesn't have a role after that.
Justice Hill gone, bro.
But Justice, Mike Davis is much closer to a Gus Edwards than Justice Hill is. That's the reason why Justice Hill is still on the squad now. Because Justice Hill has a niche, he has a role, and he plays special teams. Yeah. But Mike Davis, he's literally Gus, maybe a little bit thicker. But he's literally the Gus type of player. And I like Gus more as a running back than I do Mike Davis. Especially after he effectively lost his job to Cordell Patterson last season. I don't think too many people look at that, but he was for a while. They were essentially sharing touches, or he was getting the more touches than Cordell, but Cordell was doing more with his touches, which is the reason why Cordell is still on the team and Mike Davis is not. So I don't think that Mike Davis stays on this team long. I think he's truly only on the team until Gus Edwards is activated off of PUP and maybe plays a game or two. Justice, like I said, is more of a niche guy. Kenyon Drake is a niche guy. I also think he would be a nice change of pace.
I forgot King. And I agree with you. Mike Davis is gone.
Yeah,
one goes back, it's gone.
Then
eventually we're gonna have to get rid of Justice.
Yeah, I mean, he's a special teams guy. I think us getting rid of Justice will probably depend on how well Kenyon plays. His production will probably determine the longevity of Justice Hill's time in Baltimore. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. But ultimately, I think the Ravens will win this game. It's with Joe Flacco at quarterback, mind you, not for the Ravens, but for the New York Jets. Joe Flacco will be the quarterback.
The Jets are sporting a rookie tackle.
Yeah.
That man said Calais Campbell was just another guy. Flack is getting mollywopped.
Yeah, and it's not even Calais Campbell that he has to worry about. I think that Odafe Owe is going to have a season that puts him top 3 in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. 3 sacks on Sunday? I could see it. I mean, so for those of you who don't know, the Jets signed Dwayne Brown, a veteran, to play left tackle for them this year, and then he just suffered a potentially long-term injury, so he's gone for the year. Mekhi Becton, their original starting left tackle, who actually played very well last year, also got hurt. He's done for the season. So now they have a guy who used to play left tackle but switched to right tackle this year because they were so deep at left tackle, who is now being forced to go back to left tackle on a less than week's notice to play on the left side in the first game. And then the guy that's replacing him on the right side is a rookie. So the situation does not look very strong or very promising for the Jets. And this is against a depleted Ravens pass rush. The Ravens on their original 53-man roster only have 2 outside linebackers. They did just sign a guy to their practice squad. I think a former Packer. I can't remember his name, but he's an outside linebacker. I'll pull up his name a little bit later in the stream. But they just added him to the practice squad. And then, of course, Steven Means and Jeremiah Moon, who both had pretty solid preseasons, are already on our practice squad. So there are going to be some options of guys to elevate for game day. But on the original roster, there's only 2 healthy guys right now, Dafe and Justin Houston. Jabo and Bowser are both still hurt. Jabo's about to go on the IR for a few weeks. Bowser's on PUP for at least the first 4 weeks. So we'll really need some help, and we'll need it sooner rather than later.
As far as the offense goes, we're good. I don't like if we gotta sit here and talk about what Lamar Jackson can do today. I mean, can do against that defense.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that defense is not a threat. Like, other than the fact that we're
I like Sauce Gardner.
Yes.
I like Jermaine
Sauce
Johnson. I like Quinnen Williams. He's a threat.
Yeah.
CJ Mosley, of course. Yeah. They do have a solid defense. I can't say that their defense
those
is
guys
solid,
are flag,
but I don't
flag
think
heavy.
They are. That's
those
a good
guys
point.
are flag heavy.
But I don't see them as a everyone's a threat because it's professional football, but I don't see them as a true threat to this Ravens offense.
Threat to our game plan. I don't see that happening.
And that's even if Ronnie Stanley doesn't start this week, because it's looking like he probably won't. It's looking like he probably won't play this first week. He only had like 3 practices. All of them were half participations. So he probably won't play week 1. They haven't completely ruled him out yet. He has not been ruled out. He's officially labeled as doubtful. But there is a chance he can play, but I don't think he will. I think Juwan James plays left tackle to start the season. I don't think that we'll be missing Stanley for more than 2 games. My prediction is that he misses 2 games max. And then
for the whole year?
No, to start the season.
Going back out.
Well, why you say that?
He's going back out.
Well, that's very pessimistic of you.
I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm not saying it to be.
I don't think
negative.
I don't think that the Ravens can prosper too much without him on the field. He is far and away their best lineman. Without him, I just don't see it. I'll be right back, you guys. You can keep talking about the guys.
Hey, I'm just letting you know, man. Personally, as a guy coming from that offensive line, I tend to kind of see linemen in a different light. Now, we go back to Orlando Brown Jr. That guy was nice. He's a nice, versatile lineman. And we talk about Patrick McCarr. We talk about guys that move around. The only guy on our line that has yet to move around and be prosperous is Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah, that's because he literally has no reason to.
Why not?
Because prior to injury, he was being referred to as the best left tackle in football. When you're the best at your position, why are you moving anywhere? Like, we can find other people to build around you. You stay there and keep doing what you do.
We had Marshall Yonder. He was the best right guard in football. Did we move him to the left?
We did move him to the left. That did happen. What was the reason for that, though? We had an extreme need.
Yeah, we had injury. We still injury problems. But that just goes to say versatility.
Yeah, so we're not – are you saying that Stanley can't play on the right side?
Yes.
And who's to say that? There's literally no proof to back that up. The only reason he hasn't played on the right side is because with all the musical chairs that we've been doing on the offensive line, they've mainly revolved around the fact that he's hurt.
Yeah.
So it's not, he's not available.
But, okay, so this is my own personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe that we could have the year that Orlando Brown was going to try to sit out to get more money.
Mm-hmm.
We could let him play out the rest of his contract the same that we're doing with Lamar.
Yeah, we could have, but he was a guy that was talking about potentially sitting out, holding out, stuff like that. And then, so I agree that
I feel like it was just money. If we gave him left tackle money, he still would be playing right tackle. I mean, he would try to play right tackle or play left because he was a Pro Bowl guy.
Yeah, I think he wanted. Yeah, if he would have been paid left tackle money at right tackle, he'd have stayed. I agree,
and we would have been solid. Ever since he left, that's when we started having more problems on top of problems. Started, especially O-line problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started to come. Now, I'm not saying Ronnie Stanley is.
Well, we had problems before that because remember the season before that was the season where we had that overturn at center.
Yeah.
Bradley Bosley kind of only just recently started playing center again the last season. He was our left guard.
Yeah.
And he moved back to center.
After Bradley Bosley.
He played center in college, though, so he had the experience. He was drafted not necessarily as a center, but he was a center when drafted, So, we had that piece there that was able to make some things shake. And so there are a few question marks for the Ravens this year, mainly revolving around guys returning to form from injury. You'd like to think and hope and pray and expect that that the injury bug won't hit us like it hit us last season, that we, won't be dealing with those historic type of numbers. But injuries always do happen, and we have to expect to miss somebody this year. I mean, hopefully it's somebody we can live without, that kind of, can come off a little disingenuous and stuff like that to say. But as far as like from a competitive standpoint, talking about trying to win games just for the sake of winning games, you hope that if anybody gets hurt, it's someone insignificant or someone you can afford to lose,
Yeah, but that's why I was trying to say, like, I'm not trying to be pessimistic and be negative about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I see how he works, and I see that a guy his size trying to nurse that ankle injury, that's going to be lingering for his rest of his career.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be I tweaked it this year. I'm just going to keep building it up till I don't got to worry about it no more. That's going to linger.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess that's something to watch out for, huh?
Yes, that is.
Interesting. But all in all, you still predict the Ravens win week 1, right?
Yeah, of course.
Gotcha. So let's move on to the next one. We have the last 1 p.m. game of Sunday, and that is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars playing against the Washington Commanders. I froze because I said it so like it rolled off the tongue so smooth that I almost thought that I said Redskins. I was like, oh shit, did I say Redskins? Because I kind of just said it but no, I was right. It's the Commanders. So it's going to be the Commanders at home playing against the Jacksonville Jags. Another year 2 quarterback and Trevor Lawrence playing against a
post-urban era Lawrence, man.
First post-urban era, even though can we call it an era?
Post-urban era.
It barely lasted a year. I don't know if we can call it an era.
Urban Meyer said, "I'm coming back to professional football." The world was stopped. It was in shock. We want to know where he went, but as looking back in hindsight, as how he actually did his job, it was piss poor, man.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Piss poor and trying to dictate professionals.
I think that he probably was going into the NFL with 2 things. One, with the same mindset that he went into every game at Ohio State and University of Florida. And 2, he was probably going into it with the mindset that the NFL was the same place that it was when he last left. And it just isn't.
Especially when you forget who the fuck Aaron Donald is.
Yeah, not knowing who Aaron Donald is like.
I personally want to say he just forgot for that moment.
I
don't want to say that he really doesn't know who Aaron Donald is.
If I'm Mr. Khan, who's the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm calling the man the moment that I see the clip to say, "Listen, buddy, we had a good ride."
I'm with you. That's why I said I think he just forgot.
But if you don't know who the best player on defense in the National Football League, then the only way I guess I could excuse that is if they didn't play the Rams on the schedule last year. But if the Rams is on your schedule, one of the first things you think of when the schedule come out is, oh shit, we got to play Aaron Donald.
You're looking at 99.
Yeah,
the guy who's out here practicing trench fights with a guy with knives.
Right. It's just he a different beast, bro. Yes. He got more than that dog in him, yo. He got a whole pound in that motherfucker, yo.
That man is crazy.
Yo.
I would not want to be in any type of trench battle with him.
Unless I'm side by side, his partner.
Ain't even side by side.
You said you don't need to be in the premises. Just he got that. That's all not you gonna be somewhere else.
Listen. Is either you bull rushing or you literally are just waiting to see if someone comes up the gap. That's all he does.
That's a fact. And he's just so strong, yo. Like
it's the strength, the technique, and the speed.
Yeah, yo. Like to be that strong, that big, and that fast is a cheat code, bro. Like you was on Madden, you clicked on the name, clicked edit player, and took them sliders all the way up. And that's how you ended up with Aaron Donald. But yeah, the guy's a beast.
But on some serious notes, I see the Jazz kind of. This is the debut for the new look Jazz.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this is the debut for the new look Jazz.
They revamped the offense a lot.
Revamped the offense.
New coaching staff. Year 2 for the quarterback.
Trevor's back.
Yep.
New wide receivers.
Yep.
Let me got a little bit of news. Hold up, I thought I got it. Yeah, new wide receivers in Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Marvin Jones Jr. They are pretty good guys, deep threat.
Well, I think MJ was there last year. Marvin Jones was there last year, but he got hurt or something like that. I don't think he played the whole season. I can't remember for certain now, but
Zay Jones,
hopefully he did get hurt. I'm not just giving him an excuse for a piss poor season or something like that. But I think he got hurt at some point last year.
But Zay
But
Jones,
Christian Kirk is going to be an interesting one because everybody had an opinion and something to say about that contract that he got. X Factor. Might as well say now, do you believe he lives up to the contract this year?
I want to say yes, and I want to say no, only because I don't know what the Jags passing scheme
in
is
general.
Actually
That's
be
fair.
Right now.
That's fair because the next question was gonna be for me. What do you think the ceiling is for him?
Yeah, because that's why I say I gotta wait till like I want to say week 6 to really get a sense of everyone's offense. Mm-hmm. Is it working? Is it not? See how they go about in practice. Is it working for them in practice? Not working for them in practice, and just see how it goes. But like I said, the Jags are nice. Running back wise, Travis Etienne is finally getting fed.
Yep.
I am happy.
Coming off last year's Liz Frank injury that cost him all of last season. And then on top of the fact that the guy who played in his stead last year, who was still their running back prior to that, James Robinson, he's coming off an injury now, so he may not be ready to go week 1. Actually, I think he's out for week 1. I think he was officially named out for week 1. So Travis Etienne is going to be getting the lion's share of the carries, not just this week, but until James Robinson is back ready to go, which kind of makes Travis Etienne a bit of a steal in fantasy drafts and stuff like that. Though he was ranked pretty high, if you notice, on most fantasy big boards. He was pretty high on the list. He was like within the top 40.
Because that's only because they've seen the work that he's put in at Clemson. Mm-hmm. They know what he can do. They know what he brings to the table. Just because he missed that first season, they're giving him a little bit of time. Once he comes back and finally gets in that rhythm, it's a wrap. I see the Jags being actually like I don't see them being a threat in the division, but I do see them being a good mid-table team.
Interesting.
Because I also want to see how their defense is becoming revamped by drafting Trayvon Walker. Was it Trayvon Walker?
Mm-hmm.
Driving Trayvon Walker, and then also grabbed another linebacker. I believe it is Devin Lloyd.
Yep, Devin Lloyd from Utah.
Yep. Yeah, so I want to see how their defense kind of gels in. I want to see how they actually produce and see what happens. As far as the league is going on, teams don't actually have to be bad. The guys who were bad aren't bad anymore. So we just want to see progression. And that's honestly what I want to see out of the Jags. I want to see progression. I want to see how they can come back from especially that scandal-ridden season of Urban Meyer.
So with all that being said, what was your prediction for this first week? Against the Commanders, Carson Wentz.
I don't know because I like Carson Wentz too.
I like Carson too. I like Scary Terry at receiver.
Jahan Dotson is starting.
You think so?
I did not. It is. It's already been established.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Okay. That's why I'm saying I don't know.
Wow. I picked up Curtis Samuel yesterday in the draft, in the Shits and Gigs draft. I picked up Curtis Samuel thinking he was, still wide receiver too. I didn't, but I have Jahan Dotson in our main league. He's on my bench in our main league. That's good to know, though. Yep. You see that big money league. I drafted Jahan Dotson because I know what the fuck I be doing out there. I know, I didn't know that he was a starter already, but I knew he was going to be starting before the season ended.
You just get lucky, man.
No, luck got something to do with
it. Got everything to do with
it. But I'm a good drafter. I can evaluate a big board. But so I personally, I think it would be fun to predict the Jags win, and I think this one is going to be a pretty close game. Both teams have some solid pros and cons.
Yeah, and also I don't think Chase is healthy to play this game.
He's not. Did you hear about him re-aggravating the ACL?
Oh Jesus!
He re-aggravated his ACL, and apparently the team is not happy about it. It was like he re-aggravated it at Von Miller had a passing camp. Like a pass rushing training camp type shit that he held. Chase Young went, and I don't know what he was doing there, but did something there, re-aggravated the ACL. So for those of you who don't know, Chase Young, who was coming off an ACL tear, will not be ready for week 1 because he did re-aggravate his injury, which is bad news for himself and the Commanders. Yeah, tough news.
But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Like I said, it's a gamble. This game is really, honestly, this is my game of the week.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's my game of the week because of performance. I want to see who wants it more. This is Carson Wentz's third team in almost 4 years, man.
These are facts.
How can a guy coming from a Super Bowl team leave and has yet to be stable? That's kind of crazy. So I want to see how Carson Wentz looks with Washington, looks with their receivers, and their line is a little bit. It's not bad, but it's still decent. So we want to see how that actually happens. And also the big question. This is why, and also a reason why this is my game of the week. The question becomes, what is the state of Antonio Gibson?
Yeah. That was gonna be interesting. He's on my starting lineup in a fantasy league. But we heard about the Brian Robinson thing, not the shooting, but the fact that he was named the lead back over Antonio Gibson and then got shot. But so that's interesting. We'll see exactly how, what comes from that. When Robinson is ready, is he just gonna step right back into that lead back role that was supposed to be his at the beginning of the season, or is it going to be more of a progression? Which is super interesting, considering that if it is more of a progression, he would technically be the third running back on the depth chart behind J.D. McKissick, who's their main pass catcher at running back. So very interesting to see. I did see a report yesterday, I want to say, where Ron Rivera, the head coach of the Commanders, said that Antonio Gibson would be fed the ball regardless of the fact that he struggled in preseason. So I think that's promising, at least for week one. And I think that if that holds true, week one will be very telling for what we can expect from Antonio Gibson going forward. If he goes out there and have a great game, now we have a controversy, and we likely don't see Brian Robinson stepping on the field immediately.
His trade value will explode the same way that Kareem Hunt's trade value has exploded.
That's a fact. And I also have Kareem Hunt in a couple fantasy leagues. I'm hoping that he becomes a running back one somewhere before the season ends. But even if he doesn't, he'll be a great running back too for me. The Antonio Gibson thing is interesting. I think I'm going to go ahead and predict a Jaguars win.
Yes.
In a game that I like as one of the best games of the week. I won't call it my game of the week. There's one or two other games later in the week that I think are really interesting. But that one is a close contender. I'll give it contender for game of the week status. That's what I'm giving it, contender. All right, so Jordan's game of the week, my contender. We both have the Jaguars I guess you can call it upsetting since it's on the road in week one. We'll call it an upset
of the Commander, the debut of the Commander.
Right, of the Command. Right. Oh, that's a great point. We did not even mention that. This is going to be the first official of the Commanders. Right. In Commanders history, this is their first regular season game. So that's going to be big. There hasn't been a whole lot of hype about that outside of Washington, but I'm sure it's going to be a talking point in the storyline on Sunday. That'll be interesting. And for it to start on a sour note with the team that was literally the worst team in the NFL, not just last season, but the season before as well, for them to be the team that beat you in your first game of your existence, that's gonna be a smack in the mouth. Yeah. If I'm the Commanders and that happens to me, that loss fuels me for the entire season. But that's just me. I got the dog in me. I don't know about that.
Did we talk about the Raiders Chargers game?
Raiders Chargers. We have not talked Raiders Chargers yet. They were kind of next on my list. We've done all the 1 p.m. games now. Now it's time for the 4.
And we did Cardinals Chiefs.
No, Cardinals Chiefs are the first game of 4:25. We only did the 1 p.m. game so far. 1 p.m. games in the Thursday night game. We can start with Cardinals Chiefs now. Is the first 4:25 game that will be on CBS. The first game for the Chiefs without Tyreek Hill in quite some time. The first game of the Cardinals with Hollywood Brown.
I don't see drop off in Kansas City.
Really?
I don't see a drop off.
That's interesting. I think I can see that mainly because they replaced their one top weapon with a lot of solid weapons. To have. We'll see what Sky Moore does, but yeah, Valdez Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster. I think those two will be interesting to see. I'm very curious about Valdez-Scantling because he's a guy that I always have to take those second and third string receivers that play with a good quarterback with a grain of salt. Is it good quarterback play that made you relevant, or is it your talent that made you relevant?
But is that not the same question we asked Tyreek now?
Kind of, and the only reason I say no is because he's the cheater. Like, he can literally outrun everybody, so as long as the quarterback can get the ball to him, he should be fine type of thing, you know? But for the most part, it's more so these type of situations. So that's remained to be seen exactly how that'll go. But I think that'll be interesting. Pat Mahomes did go on the record apologizing to fantasy managers. He said that the Chiefs won't have a wide receiver one this year. He said that he's going to be spreading the wealth around.
I'm actually calling already.
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah, I'm about to say
Travis Kelce is their wide receiver one. But then as far as at the wide receiver position, sure, whatever, you cannot have a wide receiver one. But the reason you don't have one at wide receiver is because you already have him at tight end.
I don't know about you, but if I'm Juju, I take that as disrespect.
I mean,
that's disrespectful.
You can only hope with so much hate in your heart for your quarterback, though. So I don't know how far that'll get him.
Not really hate. It's
more just energy, like, fuel.
Yeah, you know? Because if I'm Juju and I see it there, I'm like, so you haven't seen what I've been doing? But at the same time, can't we see what they can do? Honestly, I want to say the surprise player on that roster will most likely be Mecole Hardman.
He's going to be a surprise.
Yes.
And so what are you projecting stats-wise? Well, not say well for Mecole. I won't ask you to predict specific stats. Which Chiefs weapon, how many of the Chiefs weapons will he outperform on Sunday?
Will Mecole outperform?
Yes, Mecole.
I don't know about outperform. He's gonna be. I want to say he's gonna have more production this year. It's the same on like the same type of snap count that DeMarcus Robinson was getting when he played there.
Okay,
so that's how I'm saying.
That's solid usage.
Exactly.
I would call that solid.
But this will
usage.
be more of a Mahomes is actually gonna look at him and throw him the ball
because T. Hill not there anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's gonna be more of a. Yeah, I see Mecole going out.
And doesn't he kind of replace T. Hill as their fastest receiver?
Just about.
It's about. Sky Moore will be interesting. Juju Smith isn't really a speedster. He's more like a route runner, slot type of guy, Juju. And then, Valdez-Scantling, I think, has a bit of speed to him. But again, nothing crazy for real. So we'll see about that.
He got the feet.
The feet. You're right. Yeah, he does have some good route running. Yeah. That's facts. That's facts. All right, so let's keep it pushing. We a whole hour and a half into a stream that I was kind of guessing would be about an hour long. No pressure. We're not in a rush. We're sitting here chilling. We with you until we get to the end of this list. And then from there, we'll see where it goes, where we are time-wise.
Details and personality, baby.
Yep. Yeah, you can't ask for too much more, huh?
Yeah, details and personality, man.
But so prediction. I think we did a lot of build up for the game, but predictions: Chiefs, Cardinals. Who do you have winning? This is in Arizona, by the way. 425.
I got the Chiefs winning by 2 touchdowns. I want to say maybe 37 something.
I hate giving specific score predictions. You won't
hear
a lot of those from me this year. You might hear me say stuff like, they'll win by 2 touchdowns or 10 points or it might come down to turnovers or something more on the vague side. I'm not one to be like, the score going to be 24-16, and some people like when you watch CBS and shit, like some of them be giving specific ass scores, Like how the fuck did you get 29-15? Like, we're like, what has to happen in the game for the score to hit 29-15? Like,
you expecting weak safety?
But like 15 points is like that's like
football.
That's like you miss an extra point and then get the safety. It's like it's like things have to play to factor into you getting 15 points in the game. But I also predict the Chiefs win. I think it'll be a 2-possession win. I won't say 14 points. I'm kind of leaning towards a 10-point win.
Oh, you think it's gonna be a lot of field goals?
Potentially. I do think they'll have to settle. Both teams will end up settling for. I don't think there'll be more than 4 field goals kicked in the game, though. Which is an okay amount of field goals. That's not a small amount, but that's also not.
Honestly, no matter.
But the real thing for me that's given the 2-possession win to the Chiefs is that the Cardinals didn't really improve on defense much this year. They lost Chandler Jones, and they didn't get much back in return.
Exactly.
So that has me concerned. Yeah, this is a team without Tyreek Hill now for the Chiefs, but they still have Mahomes, one of, if not the best quarterback in football right now, and then
the best deep ball.
And then one of the best tight ends in football, in Travis Kelce. So those two alone going, give you a sleepless night on Saturday. But so that's going to be interesting to see. We'll see exactly how that one goes down. But me personally, I got the Chiefs winning it by 2 possessions. The Cardinals are going to be interesting, though. I think Hollywood gets at least 1 touchdown, maybe 2. I'm fantasy wise, I'm banking on him playing as a true wide receiver 1 for 6 weeks, bro. Hey man, that's what fantasy is about, bro. You could go into fantasy with 2 different mindsets. You can go into fantasy praying for the best and whatever happens, or you can go into fantasy expecting some wild shit to happen, trying to account for it and play based off that. This year, I'm going with the latter. I've been predicting some crazy shit. In my $30 league, I didn't tell you this yet, so you're about to see his reaction live on air. I traded away Najee Harris. I drafted Najee Harris with my first pick, and I traded him away for Brandon Ayuk and J.K. Dobbins. The reason I did it is because of kind of what I told you earlier. I think that Najee, my prediction is that Najee Harris gets ran into the ground this year. I think that he's gonna take a step back because of how much they give him the ball. And you know who I got him from, who I made the trade with? Your boy Ike. And he thinking he really doing something right now. I said, hey, bro, I hear what you're saying, and straight up, outright, I kind of lose this trade.
In you, bro.
But if at any point this year Najee Harris has a season-ending injury, I immediately win the trade.
You talking about me being pessimistic about?
Yeah, I am. But
about Ronnie Stanley.
Okay, but that's Ronnie Stanley. He's a member of your favorite team. This is the fucking Pittsburgh Steelers. Fuck them and everybody that outside of my bro. Y'all, even my bros that Steelers fans, y'all know what's up, man. When it comes to the season, y'all not my mans during the season. Y'all not my mans when we play. You can call me after the game if we win and we can rap. But if not, I'm ignoring your calls. I'm famous for that, yo. All my friends know that, yo. I got a couple of friends that Steelers fans. My cousin a Titans fan. If and whenever we lose to them, they love calling my phone, and I don't know why, because I never answer. Fuck them. I'm not in the mood to hear all that bullshit. Because odds are the Ravens beat themselves. Y'all ain't beat us. That's how I view it most of the time. So I ain't, we gonna keep it pushing though. Chiefs beat the Cardinals out there in Arizona. Second game is going to be one amongst division rivals. That's the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Yes. Interesting game. This is one that's on my top 2 list for game of the week.
Really?
Yeah, this is top 2 game of the week list for me right here. The Raiders, Chargers in LA. The second game of the week played in SoFi is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Big question about that game is the availability of J.C. Jackson making his debut. That's the only thing.
That's a good point, because as many of you may know, the Raiders have themselves quite a receiving core now. They went out and got Derek Carr's former college teammate, Devontae Adams, a guy who's arguably the best receiver in football. So, I mean, that alone elevates them from wherever the fuck they were before. And they're now at least a step or 2 up regardless.
While still having Darren Waller
and your boy,
Hunter Renfrow.
His boy, this is a Hunter Renfrow stand right here, boy. He run a Hunter Renfrow stand account. Yo, stay woke, yo.
And I forgot to draft him. That's the wild thing about it.
Maybe he not his man's too much. It'd be your own man.
He be going too quick.
It'd be your own man's.
Hey, them snake orders be bullshit. But yeah, man, Hunter Renfrow there. I agree with you. It was in my top for game of the week, only because you want to see how everyone goes in this new division. I mean, not new division, but in the new division
Right, like revamp.
rivalry.
Right, yeah, it's like,
This is that game.
Literally every team in their division right now is a playoff contender and has at least some shot of making the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I don't know when the last time we could say that about any division, even, some of those years when the AFC North was one of the best divisions in football, like at least one of the four teams wasn't necessarily a true contender. These guys, I don't know if we can truly call them all true contenders, but they're either true contenders or one tier below. Like they're literally all right there.
All four of those quarterbacks in the division can easily try to make a name for the MVP.
Yo, that's about to be a crazy.
All four.
Yo, that's why this is my game of the week, man. Because the AFC West is the best division in football this year. I really wanted it to be the AFC North like it is every now and then, but this just isn't that year. Maybe if Deshaun Watson hadn't been suspended at all, we could have called it that. But even then, I wouldn't have put them over the West just based off the way the West look right now. I mean, until the Steelers become relevant again, it's going to be the West.
But yeah, man, we'll see how it goes. You really want to see just how the receivers really react to the new Chargers defense, because at the same time, Derek Carr is probably happy he has Devontae Adams, but at the same time, now he has to run from Khalil Mack 2 times a year.
That's a great point.
Yes, he has to run from Khalil Mack 2 times a year.
And while you're running from him, that means that you are running towards Joey Bosa.
Yes.
So you can't win for losing, honestly. Like, you go left, you go right, you fuck. Yes. So you might as well try to run it right behind your center, because
that's what I'm saying. This is a great game.
Anything else is like L.
And then even on the other on the other side, you go for the chart.
This is right? I don't know which way they would view it. Yeah.
Yeah,
because I got the camera. L.
Maybe you turn the tables. You look at the Chargers offense. They are actually a pretty high-powered offense, high-octane offense. Keenan Allen has to make a resurgence this year. Last year, it was a disrespect on his name to the point where there was preseason rankings and Mike Wallace was over top of Keenan Allen as far as being a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, that's insane. But I thought Keenan Allen ended up coming out of the season with some solid stats last year. Did he not?
Solid stats, real quick, but not enough to.
He wasn't getting the love. Why the fuck?
Yeah, not enough to where he is still clearly the wide receiver one in Los Angeles.
I think he is still clearly the wide receiver one. I think that the only reason why Williams is able to prosper is because he's playing opposite Keenan Allen. Bro.
Yes.
Like, exactly. And Keenan Allen been doing Keenan Allen 30 years old. Like, he been doing this shit for a minute now, bro. Last year he had he actually had a career high in receptions last year, 106.
Yeah.
Next closest was in 2019, 104. He did not have a career high in receiving yards, though. It looks like this was probably about fourth in his career in receiving yards. He finished with 1,100 receiving yards, though. That's still 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's still splitting time with Mike
which
Williams.
was tied for second most ever in his career.
Yeah, still splitting receptions with Mike Williams. So it's still a great offense. What was I say? Herbert. The Chargers' hopes and dreams fall with him.
Yeah. How far does he progress this year? Does he regress? What exactly happens with Justin Herbert this year? This is a guy we've heard all the hype before. That made me think about it. Now here's a guy. I'm gonna start saying that a lot. Here's a guy who now here's a guy. Anyways, here's a guy that you look at, you see what he's done up until this point. You see where he's gotten them. It's kind of Lamar Jackson-esque, honestly, as far as success.
Yes.
So the next step for him is to win the playoff game.
Yes.
But is he going to win a playoff game this year? Is it going to be just one playoff game? Or will he go on a little run this year? I mean, that's going to be curious to see. But yeah, I do think that even with that revamped defense, even the defense was already like that, and they became even more like that this year. Why I'm predicting them to finish top 5. But even with that defense, I think it all fringes on Justin Herbert. But I mean, that's usually the case. It always hangs on the quarterback. I mean, unless you're the 2000 Ravens, it's going to hang on your quarterback. Especially in today's NFL, where or
you're just an Iowa football fan.
Yeah, that could also be the case. Or Navy. I guess anybody can run the triple option. Or Georgia Tech. But
shouts out to my bro Murph. Double wig forever.
Yo, 88 superpower for life, bro.
Forever, bro.
Yo, I promise you, it's gonna work. Just keep running it. Like, just keep working.
Hey, coach, they on the play. All right, they gotta stop it. But yeah, I mean, I felt like we covered every game except for the primetime games. Did we talk about the Giants Titans?
We have not done Giants Titans yet, so we want to do that one, and then we have one more. We have Go Pack Go and the Vikings. We didn't talk about Packers. Oh, earlier in the day we did. Yeah, we jumped ahead to it. Yeah, very early on. Yeah, I don't know if I gave my prediction for it.
Yeah, we just thought about it. I don't think we gave.
But the Vikings are at home. Like I said, that revamped offense and with some question marks for the Rodgers and the Packers' offense. I want to go ahead and give it to the Vikings. Yeah. But the X factor in the game is the Packers defense. So it all comes down to how well they're able to mesh together. I kind of want to agree with you
and go with the Vikings only because this will be – I want to say this is not the first year, but we want to see how – I want to see how Aaron Rodgers goes from being okay with running from Zadarius Smith in practice to having to run from him in real game situations. Because he is going to be coming in hot. He definitely chose the Vikings for a reason. He wants to play the Packers 2 times a year. He's going to get that, and we're just going to see how Rodgers plays, man. Hopefully he can overcome all the situations there, not having a clear wide receiver one. But I feel as though not having a clear wide receiver run doesn't really stop you as much as you still have to scheme the guy open, throw the ball in the right place it where the defense can't get it. And that's all Aaron Rodgers does, and that's why he is the elite of elites.
That's all facts. All facts. I got to say, I've been an Aaron Rodgers fanboy for years. Like this, a true passer of the football in the truest sense of the word. Yes. That man can put a football wherever on the field he wants to. And that's something that I was always amazed by. So I think that'll be interesting. But like you said, coming into a season where his top receiver is Allen Lazard, and Allen Lazard is doubtful for week 1, it's going to be curious to see what he can do with just Romeo Dubes, Aaron Jones, and A.J. Dillon, essentially. Oh, and Robert Tonyan. I think Robert Tonyan is healthy.
I think Randall Cobb is still there, too.
Yeah, his guy, but, that's like a security blanket, like they talk about your comfort movie. Yeah. Randall Cobb is Aaron Rodgers' comfort receiver. When he's feeling a little depressed, he's under the weather, like just not feeling like himself. You just look over to his guy Randall Cobb, and everything just gets a little bit brighter.
Yeah, just see him cutting across the field on the slot, just pew.
Yeah, he smirks a little bit, throws him the ball, completion.
And
the world is set back right.
Come on, man. That shallow route working every time.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it's gonna be curious to see. But I really do think that the Vikings' offense will be
3 touchdowns.
Evolved.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. I like it. Man, they're a team that can really spread the wealth. Like you kind of want to predict just one guy scoring, but it's like when you have Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, who's literally a red zone threat, right? Red zone threat in the truest sense of the word. And then you got probably the best young receiver, if not one of the 2 best young receivers in football, and Justin Jefferson. Sorry for shaking the table there. Oh, they're shaking the table. This guy, man. But yeah, so again, it'll be curious to see. That's my phrase of the night. Going into week 1, things will be real curious to see.
Very curious to go for. I think the last games for the primetime games is the Giants-Titans game.
Yeah, Giants-Titans, yeah. And that one is probably my least favorite game of the week.
I have no knowledge.
Hated the game of the week. Titans versus Giants. The only thing that can make this game interesting, in my opinion, is if Ryan Tannehill breaks his leg on the first play, and now all of a sudden Malik Willis is the quarterback for the entire season. I think that's the only thing. I think that's the only thing that makes the Titan season interesting.
Hey man, y'all saw how he looked at me when I said Ronnie Stanley. He looked at me like,
because y'all see the hat, y'all see the Ravens hat. Like he's a Ravens fan. No, that's not real. That's that. This man, he's demented.
How's it not real?
He's working through issues, and we have to support him and continue to uplift him until he gets to a place where.
So you rather me get my hopes up and say like Ronnie Stanley is a stronger guy after his surgery, What he's clearly not.
I would hope so. I mean, that's what everybody's been saying. So I mean, I would hope so. But I mean, especially since it was a second surgery, so I would hope so.
I
would hope he didn't go back on the table for no reason or with no, legit results to come from it.
I keep my offensive line things to myself. If you ain't been in them trenches, you can't really.
Offensive line aficionado. I have to see to him at all times when it comes to O-line.
You ain't been in the trenches, you can't talk on the trenches.
No, I did play O-line back in rec ball. I was a two-way player. I played O-line and D-line back in rec ball. Couldn't tell you what fucking position on the offensive line I played.
Listen,
so clearly,
I've been playing offensive line for almost 18 years, bro. Center and rec league. Offensive guard, high school.
Position on the offensive line did I play? Now I'm having to call my father after the stream and ask him what position I played.
5'11", 230. I'm out here blocking everything. Never had a false start. Never. But other than that, I don't know. Looking forward to this game. I kind of see the Titans just really dominating. This is the return of King Henry himself. It is going to be a lot of truck sticks all over the field. The Giants defense is still ass. Not with S's, with Z's. And that's really it. I mean, other than that, because I don't really have nothing to say on Daniel Jones. I don't got anything really to look forward to on the Giants offense because the Giants offense is in itself a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, I agree. I think and for those of you who watched this video the other day, I keep saying the other day, it was literally yesterday. I think because I've been getting the process started for a few days, it's probably why I keep saying the other day. Yeah. But for those of you who watched yesterday's video, I predicted that it was kind of sarcastically, but by the time the Ravens play the Giants, the Giants are going to be about sick and tired of Daniel Jones by that point and ready to move on. But because they've gone so gung-ho with them up until this point, they don't really have an alternative they can turn to if anything happens this year. They kind of just got to wait till the draft or until free agency.
Honestly, the Giants' problem starts with the front office. I believe Gettleman has to leave.
Yeah,
he has to step down.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, there's a few orgs that just can't win for losing in this book. It starts with the organization. Though one of those teams I would consider to be in that category before now was the Denver Broncos, but with this Russell Wilson signing, it's like, did they finally make the right move at quarterback? Even though they still can't develop QB talent though, because they have Russ now. The last good QB they had before him was Peyton, who we know came there from Indianapolis. So it's like, who was the last true homegrown Broncos quarterback? Elway? Like, because if that's so, that's insane. Can we? I guess.
He's the last.
He won them a playoff game.
I
was gonna say I couldn't tell you the last QB they had besides him who was homegrown that won a playoff game. So yeah, I'll give it to the winner. That is Tim Tebow. But yeah, so. I think that the Titans win that one, but it isn't too interesting of a game. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they got upset because I just hate this game so much. But with that being said, I'm going to go to the other game that was on my short list for game of the week. And that is Sunday Night Football, a rematch of last year's Thursday Night Football game to start the season. I don't know if you remember, but that was a great game to start the season last year. Tampa Tom and the Buccaneers are going to be going to Dallas in the Jerry World to play Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. What do you expect from the first game of the Cowboys era without Amari Cooper?
It is going to be without Amari Cooper and without Cedric Wilson.
Yes, that is true. Without Cedric Wilson as well. And without no, I'm tripping. We're good.
No, that was it.
Yeah. Even though Michael Gallup might not, he's not playing. You know, he's coming off the ACL injury. He's not ready yet.
It's going to be a surprise.
So it's going to be CeeDee Lamb and whoever else. Yeah, I guess Zeke and Tony Pollard. Oh, I said whoever else. And you said Jarwin. You tripping? Dalton Schultz. Who I have in a couple of fantasy leagues. I'm hoping that Dalton Schultz takes that step to fill that void. He has the opportunity. He just got to turn the opportunity into reality. I would love to see him prosper this year, though.
We got to see how Zeke's health Dak's health. Honestly, the whole theme of the season should be health as well.
Health as well.
Health as well should be the theme of the season.
Yeah.
Health as well.
That's fair.
But depending on how those two guys go throughout the season, it's their season to lose. It's always been
touch 2 hours.
Yeah, no, we've been.
Mhm.
Hey, that's
Right,
what happened. You got all them details,
and
man.
We only got one game left, so it's all good.
So, but like I said, it just depends on how they go about throughout the season.
Mhm.
Their health is significant to the Cowboys season. The NFC
That's
East
fair.
is always,
and they're not too deep of a
super
squad
tough.
either. So
No.
yeah, any injury would almost derail their hopes.
Exactly.
Bro.
Yes. So they have. I don't want to say that to be perfect, but they got to be consistent. They got to be healthy. They have to be diligent to accomplish their goals. Now, as far as against the Bucks, this game, that's a bad.
I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief.
It's looking bad, man.
It's a no for me, dog.
You getting that boy 12 back?
Hey, the best quarterback ever.
That boy 12
ever. We played
Only
103 seasons, and
lost
he has been
Gronk.
the best ever.
Only lost Gronk,
And that's for now.
And refilled him with Julio.
Yeah, facts. Yeah. Well, and he technically doesn't have Chris Godwin yet, and he's still trying to make the return from his injury as well. Health is wealth. Again, that's the best ability is availability. You know, those are going to be our running themes, as you can see. At least for week one, the theme of week one is health as well. So that's going to be real
interesting with another 1,300-yard season.
Yeah, really? You do? I really like
15.
Mike Evans is probably the most consistent of all the top receivers there is. Like, talk about a guy that just goes out there
1,000
and
yards.
does the same thing week in, week out, year in, year out. Yeah, he usually will. He's a guy that's infamous for like one game a year where he'll have 0 catches or one catch or some crazy shit like that. But still, regardless, he's touching over 1,000 yards every season. Yeah, and that's even since Chris Godwin got to the team, who's a guy who I arguably think is, you know, of that same tier as Mike Evans. And then on top of that, they was getting great production out of AB when AB was on the squad. And even through all that, Mike is still touching 1,000 yards. Like, that's impressive. Like, so I have to go with the Bucks in this one. Tampa Tom gets the win in Jerry World. And I think it's just I think the Cowboys get outdueled. I don't think that Dak is able to turn enough into touchdowns playing against this. This is a tough defense to play in your first game without Amari Cooper, without Michael Gallup, where it's literally just your number one receiver, your number one back, your number one tight end, and, you know, we'll see how it goes type of thing. And it won't go well. Unfortunately, this one will not go well for the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will still have a solid year. They could potentially win the division. It's between them and the Eagles, in my opinion. But this first game is going to be an L for them. 0-1 to start the season. But it'll be close. It won't be, you know, it won't be overwhelming, but the Bucks will win. And I think they will win kind of comfortably. Ready to go to the last one?
Last one.
All right. We just touched 2 hours. You're calling this the best game?
I'm gonna say this is the best primetime game.
This has the biggest storyline.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it the best game only because the Seahawks are literally ass. Like they're literally about to win 2 or 3 games this season. So but because this is the game that we alluded to earlier in the show, the return, it happened immediately. Russell Wilson was his trade request was granted. He was traded to the Broncos, and then the first week of the following season, he's going to be playing his former team, the only team he's ever played for, back in Seattle. So it's not even like a Joe Flacco where the Ravens are coming to New York. He's going back to Seattle for the first game of the season, and the Broncos run away in a blowout.
Yes.
A blowout.
I don't know.
This
is about to be hilarious.
Yeah. So
now I don't want to shit on Seattle because I am rooting for. I'm biased. I am rooting for Geno. This is, you know, we getting that start again. Hopefully, you know, just a little something. He still has DK. They just got Noah Fant. Like it's not like they have a bad receiving core. It's not like they have a bad team at all. It's all about the quarterback play. Geno is a proven quarterback. He can do it. Now, if we're only looking, if we're only going to look at Geno's stats,
Geno is a
the
proven
Jets,
college quarterback.
Yeah, proven college quarterback. But if we're only looking at Geno
who's been an NFL quarterback for 7 years now.
Yeah. But the time
he's coming in, all you need to know.
Yeah, the times he's coming in post Jets have been pretty good games. And honestly, I want to see what he does with this. His first time actually getting the keys to an offense that's not the fucking Jets.
That's fair.
Yeah, and when you got guys like DK Metcalf, you still got Tyler Lockett. You know, you got Noah Fant. Like you got guys. So it all depends on how it's gonna go, man. And honestly, like you said, I still see Wilson dominating this entire game.
Same.
We'll see how the duel goes, man.
Yeah, but the Seahawks got some guys still. Very few, but they got some guys. Lockett, DK, Jamal Adams. What's the name still on the team, right? The Griffin twin?
Or Shaq?
Yeah, Shaq Griffin. You know, both brothers were on the team. His brother just retired. The one who had the amputated hand just retired.
Yeah, Shaq's on the team.
But the other one's still on the team, right? It's Shaquille and Shaquem or something like that.
Yeah, Shaquille.
Okay, gotcha.
Shaquem on the with the amputated.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Shaquem just retired this offseason. Shaquille should still be on the team. So they do have some guys. At the end of the day, they're still a professional squad. Like they still get paid millions of dollars to step out on that football field and compete. It's just that unfortunately this one won't be much of a competition in my opinion.
I don't.
And with that being said, that is the 16th and final game of week 1. For those of y'all who was tuned in pretty much for the whole 2 hours, we appreciate it. Salute to you. You tuned in for the first stream. You a GOAT for that. You can, when we blow up, you can go around telling people when you go out for brunch on Sundays and when you out at the bar watching a football game on Friday night, you're like, yeah, you know that Trade for 3 guy? Yeah, man, I watched his very first stream. There was barely anybody in there, but I was there all 2 hours. Shout out to you. I fuck with you heavy. Another stream is probably going to be coming relatively soon. I don't think it'll be much in the realm of sports talk. I actually think I'm going to do more of the pop culture thing for my next live stream. A few things happened recently around the world and whatnot. And, why not talk about it? The Queen of England died yesterday. And
keep my thoughts to myself on that.
I also be keeping majority of my thoughts on the Queen of England to myself. Yeah, but
keeping thoughts to myself.
It's my channel. So, kind of got to report the news. But with that being said, Jordan, thank you for joining me for the first stream.
Course,
just
brother,
like that, guy that's watching, you also gonna have a claim to fame. My very first guest on my very first live stream. I appreciate you, my dog for life.
Of course.
And with that, we're gonna go ahead and call it a wraps here at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Check me out next time. Be on the lookout for updates as far as the next video, content coming soon, all that. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, leave your comments down in the comment section, especially if you're watching this on the playback. Follow me on Instagram and on Patreon to become a patron of mine. That's how I get most of my financial support to keep this going. I would appreciate that. You could join as a patron for as low as $3 a month. So I really would appreciate that. But, completely up to you. I love you all regardless. I love doing this, so I'm going to keep doing it till I can't no more. But paying me money to do it will ensure that it goes on for longer. But with that being said, you can find me at Trey for 3 on most sites. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's Jordan. I'm Trey for 3. See y'all later, man.